Thank you so much. Paramatma Prabhu, can you kindly allow me to share my screen? It says disabled.
Okay, Mataji.
In the meantime, let's start introduction on page 1. Om Jnanat Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadadi Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vrindeshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Okay, Shalina Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I was born in darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. When Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and unto the feet of all Vaishnavas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, along with his elder brother Sanatana Goswami, as well as Raghunatha Dasa and Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, and Srila Jiva Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, along with Advaita Acharya, Gadadhara, Srivasa, and other associates. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna, along with their associates, Sri Lalita and Vishaka. O my dear Krishna, you are the friend of the distressed and the source of creation. You are the master of the gopis and the lover of Radharani. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I offer my respects to Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like the molten gold and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they are full of compassion for the fallen souls. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Gadadhara, Sri Vasa, and all others in the line of devotion. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so today we're starting with verse 38, chapter 2. In my book is on page 108. Page 108, verse 38, chapter 2. Okay, so, yeah. Okay, last week, y'all remember, we'll just do a quick recap. Last week we moved over from the previous week where Krishna was speaking about the eternal position of the soul, the eternity of the soul. Then last week we moved on to the point where Krishna starts speaking to Arjuna more on the point where he's got to do his duty. Right. So we will continue from there. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sukha dukhe samakritva, laha labhau, jaya jayau, tato yuddhaya yujjasva, nainam papam avapsyasi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Okay, so Krishna is going on this point again, asking Arjuna to fight and not be fearful because he will not incur any sin, and we discussed this in much detail previously, and we can recap later on. The Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should not fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or loss, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness, so there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad, but he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. Okay. Yeah. So it is said, and I will quote the English, anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, no, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kingsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. This reference is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 11, 541. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. Okay, so let's just discuss here quickly before we move on. As you can see, I've highlighted on the screen what Krishna is saying here. There is no consideration, Prabhupada elaborates, there is no consideration of happiness or distress when you are working in Krishna consciousness. So in other words, when you are working for Krishna, when you dovetail your actions to Krishna, then it is no longer on the material plane. It becomes transcendental. So such kind of action will not attract any reaction. It is free from karma. If your actions are totally performed for Krishna, with love and devotion, and you sacrifice all the fruits of that action, then there is no reaction. Okay? That is pure devotional service action. Who's reading for us? Next verse. From the beginning, from the Sanskrit. Come. We've got.
Okay. Okay, I'll try.
Mataji. Are you reading?
Okay.
Okay, Veronica. Right, Veronica? Go.
Yeah, okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ishati Vinita, Sankhye Buddhi Yoge Tva Imam Snu Buddhaye Yukto Ya Parta Karma Bhadam Prahasyashi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus far, I've described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Parsa, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. According to the Nirkuti or the Vedic dictionary, Sankhya means that which describes things in detail, and Sankhya refers to that philosophy which describes the real nature of the soul. And yoga involves controlling the senses. Arjuna's proposal not to fight was based on sense gratification. Forgetting his prime duty, he wanted to cease fighting because he thought that by not killing his relatives and kinsmen, he would be happier than by enjoying the kingdom after conquering his cousins and brothers, the sons of Dhritarashtra. In both ways, the basic principles were for sense gratification. Happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived from seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even as a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Krishna therefore wants to explain to Arjuna that by killing the body of his grandfather, he would not be killing the soul proper. And he explained that all individual persons, including the Lord himself, are eternal individuals. They were individuals in the past, they are individuals in the present, and they will continue to remain individuals in the future, because all of us are individual souls eternally. We simply change our bodily dress in different manners, but actually we keep our individuality even after liberation from the bondage of material dress. An analytical study of the soul and the body has been very graphically explained by Lord Krishna, and this descriptive knowledge of the soul and the body from different angles of vision has been described here as Sankhya in terms of Nirukti dictionary. The Sankhya has nothing to do with Sankhya philosophy of the atheist Kapila. Long before the impostor Kapila Sankhya, the Sankhya philosophy was expounded in the Srimad Bhagavatam by the true Lord Kapila, the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who explained it to his mother Devahuti. It is clearly explained by him that the Purusha or the Supreme Lord is active and that he creates by looking over the Prakriti. This is accepted in the Vedas and in the Gita. The description in the Vedas indicates that the Lord glanced over the Prakriti or nature and impregnated it with atomic individual souls. All these individuals are working in the material world for sense gratification, and under the spell of material energy, they are thinking of being enjoyers. This mentality is dragged to the last point of liberation when the living entity wants to become one with the Lord. This is the last snare of Maya or sense gratification illusion, and it is only after many, many births of such sense gratificatory activities that the great soul surrenders unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, thereby fulfilling the search after the ultimate truth. Arjuna has already accepted Krishna as his spiritual master by surrendering himself unto him. Shiyasteham sadi mam tvam pramanam. Consequently, Krishna will now tell him about the working process in Buddhi Yoga or Karma Yoga, or in other words, the practice of devotional service only for the sense gratification of Krishna. This Buddhi Yoga is clearly explained in chapter 10, verse 10, as being direct communion with the Lord, who is sitting as Paramatma in everyone's heart. But such communion does not take place without devotional service. One who is therefore situated in devotional or transcendental loving service to Krishna, or in other words, in Krishna consciousness, attains to the stage of Buddhi Yoga by the special grace of the Lord. The Lord says, therefore, that only to those who are always engaged in devotional service out of transcendental love does he award the pure knowledge of devotion in love. In that way, the devotee can reach him easily in the ever blissful kingdom of God. Thus, the Buddhi Yoga mentioned in this verse is the devotional service of the Lord, and the word Sankhya mentioned in herein has nothing to do with the atheistic Sankhya Yoga enunciated by the impostor Kapila. One should not, therefore, misunderstand that the Sankhya Yoga mentioned herein has any connection with the atheistic Sankhya. Nor did that philosophy have any influence during that time, nor would Lord Krishna care to mention such godless philosophical speculations. Real Sankhya philosophy is described by Lord Kapila in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but even that Sankhya has nothing to do with the current topics. Here, Sankhya means analytic description of the body and the soul. Lord Krishna made an analytical description of the soul just to bring Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Lord Krishna's Sankhya and Lord Kapila's Sankhya, as described in the Bhagavatam, are one and the same. They are all Bhakti Yoga. Lord Krishna said, therefore, that only the less intelligent class of men make a distinction between Sankhya and Bhakti Yoga. Sankhya Yogaya Pritak Bhala Parvatanti Na Pandita. Of course, atheistic Sankhya Yoga has nothing to do with the Bhakti Yoga, yet the unintelligent claim that the atheistic Sankhya Yoga is referred to in the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore understand that Buddhi Yoga means to work in Krishna consciousness in the full blissful and knowledge of the devotional service of Lord. One who works for the satisfaction of the Lord only, however difficult such work may be, he's working under the principles of Buddhi Yoga and finds himself always in transcendental bliss. By such transcendental engagement, one achieves all transcendental understanding automatically by the grace of the Lord, and thus his liberation is complete in itself without his making extraneous endeavors to acquire knowledge. There is much difference between work in Krishna consciousness and work for future results, especially in the matter of sense gratification, for achieving results in terms of family or material happiness. Buddhi Yoga is therefore the transcendental quality of the work that we perform. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It was quite a long purport, full packed with lots and lots and lots of wisdom for us. Okay. So here again, Krishna goes on to say that Arjuna should fight, and in both ways. See, I've highlighted here, it says here, in both ways, the principles were for sense gratification. See, Arjuna was contemplating on not fighting due to his own sense gratification. He thought that if he doesn't kill his cousins and his grandfather and friends on the opposing party, then his heart will be light and he'll be free of sin. So he was thinking about himself, and therefore it became sense gratification, right? Now, happiness derived from such personal sense gratification, right? It says here, happiness derived from conquering them and happiness derived by seeing kinsmen alive are both on the basis of personal sense gratification, even at a sacrifice of wisdom and duty. Now, remember, Arjuna, isn't he was ready to sacrifice his duty at that point? And all his knowledge, all his wisdom? Now, that's why Krishna wanted to go on and explain to him further why he should not do that. So let's explore some discussion points. Right, we said that Arjuna was deciding not to fight out of his own sense, to satisfy his own senses. Then Krishna went on to explain that killing the body of grandfather Bhishma did not mean killing the eternal soul within Bhishma's body. And souls existed in the past, they exist right now, and they will exist in the future. Now, we came across this word Sankhya philosophy. I'm not sure who's familiar with it. But at some point, Sankhya philosophy was brought about, but there was an imposter, somebody who was pretending to be a very knowledgeable person, but he preached, also called Lord Kapil, but he wasn't the real Lord Kapil. He preached impersonalism. So the Sankhya philosophy referred to in this purport here does not refer to that Sankhya philosophy which was preached by the imposter. This Sankhya philosophy here, it was spoken by Lord Kapil himself, who is the incarnation of Krishna. And he spoke it to his mother, Devahuti. And the Srimad Bhagavatam clearly explained that the Supreme Lord creates this whole creation, this universe, by glancing over Prakriti or glancing over nature. And he impregnated these universes with us, with jivas, with atomic souls. Remember, we discussed this a little while back, that we were all put here at a certain point. Okay, we said that Lord Brahma has so many nights and so many days. We'll explore the calculation later on future verses, right? So at the end of Lord Brahma's night, at the end of Lord Brahma's life, so to speak, annihilation takes place. And all the souls, everything comes to an end. And all the jivas, us atomic souls, we enter into this lotus stem of Lord Vishnu. And we wait there at whatever level we were in until creation starts again. And then the Lord impregnates us back into the newly created universes. So that's what it's meant by here. The atomic souls were impregnated into this universe. Right. And then further on the topic of Sankhya, here Sankhya refers to the analytical description of the body and the soul. And that analytical approach was taken by Krishna solely for the purpose of bringing Arjuna to the point of Buddhi Yoga. Or in this case, Buddhi Yoga refers to Bhakti Yoga. Right. Now, Buddhi we know means knowledge. So when we speak of Buddhi Yoga, we're speaking of somebody placed in the knowledgeable sect. Is that okay so far? Or am I going too fast? Paramatma Prabhu, Veronica Mataji, we okay so far?
Yeah, it's fine.
Yes,
Right.
Mataji.
So Buddhi Yoga refers to knowledge in this instance, right? In this context. And Srila Prabhupada says, I just want to quote from the Science of Self-Realization I was reading the other day. Srila Prabhupada said, first of all, let us understand the soul. The soul is a small God. If you understand the sample, then you can understand the whole. This was a dialogue, a conversation between Srila Prabhupada and Dr. Singh. So Srila Prabhupada says here, first let us understand the soul. So that comes down to buddhi, right? To knowledge. Have that knowledge of understanding the soul first. Because the soul is a spark of the super soul. We are sparks of the super soul. And if we understand the spark, which is here described as a sample by Srila Prabhupada, then we are getting somewhere. Then slowly we can understand God. Understand first your position and where you come from and your eternity. Then you can look at the bigger picture. Right. Now, we said buddhi is knowledge and bhakti. Bhakti is devotion. Yoga, if you remember in our second lesson, we spoke about yoga and we said yoga is got from the word yuj, which means link. So yoga means to link. So if we speak of buddhi yoga, that's knowledge. Yoga, which is devotion. As soon as you put the word yoga there next to it, it means we are linking it. And what are we linking it to is the question. We link this knowledge, we link this devotion to Krishna. Then it becomes yoga. That's yoga. When we link this to Krishna. Buddhi yoga and bhakti yoga. So these individual or atomic souls are working hard in the material world. Prabhupada says in this purport as well. They're working very hard in this material world under the spell of material nature. Remember, we said material nature is Maya. Maya Devi is working under the direction of Krishna. She is the illusory power of Krishna and makes us believe that what we are experiencing here is the ultimate and there's nothing beyond it. This illusion makes us think that we, the bodies, are the real things and there's nothing else after this. So you'll hear of some people saying, they're in so much in illusion that they will say, we only live once, let's make the most of it. Let's make merry. Let's make merry, let's make the most of it. That means they want to enjoy their senses to the fullest. So he's saying over here, Prabhupada is saying these individual atomic souls are working hard in the material world under the spell of material nature that is Maya, for sense enjoyment. But we must understand that the only supreme enjoyer is Krishna. He is the supreme enjoyer. So we are meant to use our senses to serve him and let him benefit from that. And we spoke before about how we can engage our senses in serving our Creator, serving Krishna, right? Pure knowledge in devotion or bhakti is awarded to those who are constantly engaged in devotional service. And in that way, one can go back home, back to Godhead. So just for the purpose of, I know, sorry, let me just get back here. What's Mataji's name? Veronica's cousin? Salesh Prabhu's cousin?
Radhika.
Radhika, sorry, Radhika. For her benefit, let us just speak very quickly for a minute or two on what, how we can engage our senses in satisfying Krishna. Right? You want to give me one, Veronica Mataji? We'll take one from each person.
Sorry, I come again. I didn't hear the senses.
How do we dovetail our senses and our activities in satisfying Krishna? How do we make our activities Krishna conscious?
Okay.
Give us one.
The one that comes to mind currently is when we cook our food, we offer it to Krishna first and make it prasad before we even partake it, by offering it to Krishna first.
Okay.
I think of that food.
Yes, and then how are you satisfying your sense by doing that? I mean, Krishna's senses.
Well, Krishna gets to eat it first.
Krishna gets to eat it first, yes. And then what else? Also on that topic, very importantly, we shouldn't overlook this. What do we do with the prasad after it's offered? Besides us eating it. Don't we also give it to others? We share it with our family members. And sometimes we cook, and sometimes we cook even for the larger community, for other devotees, and even very senior devotees. Sometimes we'll cook and we'll offer it to your guru, senior Vaishnavas. And Krishna says, Go Brahmana Hitaicha, Jagat Hitai Krishnai Govindaya Namo Namaha. If you feed the cows, even if you feed the cows, you can take the prasad and feed the cows. If you feed the cows and the brahmanas, it's like you are feeding Krishna, because Krishna eats through the mouths of the brahmanas. So, you see. Okay, so from a more practical point, thank you. Shalina Mataji, another way we can dovetail our activities to serving Krishna. One is prasadam.
We can serve the devotees like we do at the temple. We can make puris, garlands.
Yes.
In the kitchen.
Yes, thank you. Now, Kishore Mataji, you want to give us one? Sharat Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Mataji. Mataji, I forget that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who preach about me is very dear to me.
Yes, yes, very good. So you preach about Krishna, and then you are using your voice and your energy and your knowledge in the service of Krishna. Yes, that's it. That's it. Then also very importantly, we took a practical example last week. Let's see, I want to know who remembers that. Very practical example. It was last week or the week before.
Sing for Krishna.
Yes, sing for Krishna, absolutely. You can sing for Krishna. So you're singing for Krishna. So while you're making your preparations, while you're cooking in the kitchen, you can sing. You can sing Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. You can sing a nice bhajan or something, right? Okay. What about work? Didn't we say when we go to work, we're working for Krishna? Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah. So even though, let's be practical, we've got to go to work every day. Some of us have to go to work every day. So how do you dovetail that action to Krishna consciousness? You get that salary at the end of the month. You take that salary, you buy some vegetables and some fruits, you offer it to Krishna. You take that salary, you pay your lights, water, electricity, your utilities. But who's residing in your house? You've got your deities in your house. So your house is no longer a house. It is a temple. It becomes mandir. right? So in that way, you see how you're using your what we may say it's karmi work. No, it's not karmi work. It's only karmi work if you make it karmi work. You take that because you are supporting your family, you are educating your children, and you are raising them in a Krishna conscious way. So you see how now that Lakshmi is getting used in Krishna consciousness. That's a practical approach, right? Agree? Okay. Right, let's go to the next one. Okay, we spoke about Lord Kapil. There's a nice book you can get from the bookshop, The Teachings of Lord Kapil. It's very detailed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm not sure which canto, but he was or is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, son of Kadamba Rishi and Devahuti Mata. Right? And he was the founder of Sankhya philosophy, original founder of Sankhya philosophy. Okay. Let's go to verse 40. Who's reading this verse for us? Rav Kishore Mataji, you want to read the Sanskrit verse for us, please?
Hare Krishna Mataji, yes, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Neha Pikramana Shoshi Pratyavayo na vidyate Swalpamapyasya dharmasya Trayate mahato bhayata. Can I carry on with the translation and purpose?
Yes,
Thank you,
please.
Mataji. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Purport: activity in Krishna consciousness or acting for the benefit of Krishna without expectation of sense gratification is the highest transcendental quality of work. Even a small beginning of such activity finds no impediment, nor can that small beginning be lost at any stage. Any work begun on the material plane has to be completed. Otherwise, the whole attempt becomes a failure. But any work begun in Krishna consciousness has a permanent effect, even though not finished. The performer of such work is therefore not at a loss, even if his work in a Krishna consciousness is incomplete. 1% done in Krishna consciousness bears permanent results, so that the next beginning is from the point of 2%, whereas in material activity without 100% success, there is no profit. Ajamila performed his duty in some percentage of Krishna consciousness, but the result he enjoyed at the end was 100% by the grace of the Lord. There is a nice verse in this connection of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17. Sorry, Mataji.
That's fine.
Dharmam charanamabhujam harera bhajanam apakvo thapatet tato yati yatra kwa vabhardram apuda amusya kim ko vrata apto bhajatama swadharmataha. If someone gives up his occupational duties and works in Krishna consciousness and then falls down on account of not completing his work loss is there on his part. And what can one gain if one performs his material activity perfectly, or as the Christian says, what profited a man if he gains the whole world, yet suffers the loss of his eternal soul? Material activities and their results end with the body, but work in a Krishna consciousness carries a person again to Krishna consciousness. Even after the loss of the body, at least one is sure to have a chance in the next life of being born again as a human being, either in the family of a great cultural Brahmana or in a rich aristocrat family. That will give one a further chance for elevation. That is the unique quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay, so you see here, Srila Prabhupada is elaborating and saying material activities and their results end with the body. So the body dies. Whatever material work you've done, you may have been a qualified PhD degree student, you may have been a professor, whatever, you may have been a teacher, an engineer, or whatever. But when the body ends, that's it, it's finished. When you're born again, you're going to still go through the process of educating yourself. You still have to go to school, learn your A, B, C's, and D's, and then go to primary school, go to high school, go to university, and so forth. But a person who works in Krishna consciousness, when that body ends, when that soul goes into a new body, it continues from wherever he's left off. So in this life, you're studying so nicely Srila Prabhupada's books, you're studying Shastra. So in our next lives, we will continue from where we stopped. There'll be no loss. There'll be absolutely no loss. This is what's unique and the quality of work done in Krishna consciousness. It's never lost. Okay, yeah, I've got this point of discussion here on Ajamil Katha. Is everybody familiar with that story of Ajamil? So Ajamil was, Shalina Mataji, you wanted to say something?
No, Mata, I wanted to respond that. Can you please share with us? Thank you.
Okay. Ajamil Katha is also from the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? It's a pastime where there was this young, I'm going to tell you all in a very brief manner. He was a young Brahmin, very well trained in our Vedic etiquette and culture and Shastra, and he did lots and lots of devotional service. He led a very pious life. And then one day he went out into the woods to collect probably wood or berries or whatever, something. And there he happened to see a man embracing a prostitute. Right there and then at that point, at that moment, he lost all his focus. He lost his focus as a brahmachari. And he ran after this prostitute and wanted to marry her. So he married her. He gave up all his devotional practice, married the prostitute, and lived with her for many years, had many children. So at some point, Ajamil was gone like really, really old now, and he was getting very close to death. At that point, he just before that, prior to that, he had a son. And that son was named Narayan. That son was named Narayan by one of the rishis who came over to visit. But of course, that was higher arrangement that his son happened to get such a pious name. So when he was leaving his body, the time came when he needed to leave his body. He was leaving his body, and all the Yamadutas came. They looked very, very frightening. They came to snatch his soul out of his body forcibly, because Ajamil was so attached now to his wife and his children and his body and senses, they didn't want to leave. So the Yamadutas came to forcibly take him out of his body in big, fearful forms. Ajamil became very fearful, very, very scared. He was so afraid that he screamed for his son, his youngest son, whom he was very attached to. He was very attached to his youngest son, who was named Narayan. So he shouted out, Narayan, Narayan. And as he shouted out, Narayan, Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas came. The Vishnu Dutas are the messengers of Vishnu. The Yamadutas are the messengers of the god of death. The Yamadutas are usually sent for souls that have been engaged in very sinful activities. The Vishnu Dutas are sent for pious people, pious souls. Anyway, there was a big, long, lengthy debate going on between the Vishnu Dutas and the Yamadutas. Both wanted to claim that soul. And they posed through very, very strong arguments, very detailed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Vishnu, the Yamadutas, they prayed to the Vishnu Dutas and glorified them when we saw these beautiful sights. You remember in one of our classes, we spoke about a destination called Vaikuntha Lok. And we said that the souls who go there, reach that spiritual planet, attain the bodily features of Lord Narayan and have 4 arms, the Shank, Chakra, Gada, and Padma, long arms, beautifully adorned, garlands, etc. and they look just like Lord Narayan. So that's how the Vishnu Dutas looked, because they came from Vaikuntha Lok. The messengers of the Lord. So they came to claim the soul. And these Yamadutas prayed and asked, who are you? Beautiful personalities, and it goes on and on. So eventually the Vishnu Dutas said, no, here's our claim. We have the right. We have the right to this to claim the soul, because Paramatma Prabhu, can you mute everybody, please? Thank you. And they took the soul. They took the soul because on the basis that at the end of Ajamil's life, he called out the name of Lord Narayan. It doesn't matter that he was referring to his son. The Lord is so merciful that doesn't matter even if you call my name, I shall come and claim you. I shall send my messengers to claim you and bring you back to me. Right. So the point we are making here, activities in Krishna consciousness versus material life, activities in Krishna consciousness are not lost. Ajamil, he was so pious in his young life. He was engaged so much in devotional service in bhakti yoga. And later on in his life, he was engaged in sinful activities. But the piety that he had engaged in was not lost. Because he was so sincere, that little mishap that he had at some point in his life, it fell away. The Lord forced himself into his memory. The Lord made that arrangement for his son to be named Narayan. So at the end of life, he will call out to Narayan. And then you see how all his pious activities actually came into effect at the end. That's Ajamil's Katha. I'm sure all of you are familiar, most of you are familiar with that Katha. It's a very nice, interesting Katha. If you get a chance, nice to read it. Okay. Right, let's read the next verse, 41. Before we move on, I just wanted to quote, we also spoke about the three Vishnus in one of our classes. And we spoke about the Vishnu who, like Mahavishnu, from whom spores all the universes came out. And then we spoke about Vishnu who entered into each universe and he settled at the bottom of the ocean of each universe. And from his navel came out a lotus stem. And on top of that lotus stem, Brahma was born. You all remember that, Paramatma Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Remember that lesson. So I just happened to be reading these verses and I wanted to share it with you all on that note. It's quoted in all our scriptures, right? Just to show you all how authoritative our Shastra is. Srimad Bhagavatam, canto, this is 10th canto, part 2, volume 2. And it's chapter 40, text 1. This is prayers of Akrura. Akrura's prayers, right? So Akrura is saying here, Sri Akrura said, I bow down to you, the cause of all causes, the original and inexhaustible Supreme Narayan. From the whirl of your lotus, born from your navel, Brahma appeared, and by his agency, the universe has come into being. So you see how it's quoted here as well in Srimad Bhagavatam. From the lotus stem, Brahma came. And then also, strangely enough, simultaneously, I was reading from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, volume 1, right? This is in chapter 5, text 102. Here as well, it is saying the same thing. It says here, Tanara Nabim Pada Haite, Utila Eka Padma, Se Padme Haile, Brahma Rajanma Sadma. From his navel grew a lotus flower, which became the birthplace of Lord Brahma. You see how all our scriptures are in sync. You'll find it everywhere. So there's no reason we should have 100% faith in authority. Our scriptures are authority. We said before, scriptures are like our mother and they reveal the truth about our Father. So let's go on now to the next verse, right? Verse 41. Anybody else wants to read for us? Kadruta Mataji, are you here? Kadruta Mataji here?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Can you read for us, please?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekaha guru nandana bahu shakha hiyanantascha buddhayo vyavasyayanam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligent of sorry, it's very little for me.
Intelligence of those who are
Those
irresolute.
who are irresolute in many branches, purpose. A strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. The Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22:62 states, Shraddha sabde vishvasa kahe surudita nishchaya Krishna bhakti kaile sarva karma kritahaya. Faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. When are engaged in the duties of Krishna consciousness, he needs not act in relationship to the material world with obligation to family traditions, humanity, or nationality. Fruitive activities are as engagements of one's reactions from past good or bad deeds. When one is awake in Krishna consciousness, he needs no longer endeavor for good results in his activities. When one is situated in Krishna consciousness, all activities are on the absolute plane, for they are no longer subject of two dualities like good and bad. The highest perfection of Krishna consciousness is renunciation of the material conception of life. This state is automatically achieved by progressive Krishna consciousness. The resolute purpose of a person in Krishna consciousness is based on knowledge. Vasudeva Sarvam iti samahatma
So durlabha.
durlabha. A person in Krishna consciousness is a rare good soul who knows perfectly that Vasudeva or Krishna is the root of all manifested causes. As by watering the root of a tree, one automatically distributes water to the leaves and branches. So by acting in Krishna consciousness, one can render the higher service to everyone, namely self, family, society, country.
Okay. Sorry, Mataji, they cut off there, but I'm reading off the screen.
I have one.
Okay. All right. Okay, I can read from here. I think the bottom part was cut off of it. Sorry. Service in Krishna consciousness is, however, best practiced under the able guidance of a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Krishna, who knows the nature of the student and who can guide him to act as in Krishna consciousness. As such, to be well versed in Krishna consciousness, one has to act firmly and obey the representative of Krishna, and one should accept the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master as one's mission in life. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur instructs us in his famous prayers for the spiritual master as follows. Everyone's familiar with this. We do this in the mornings, right? To our gurus, as part of Mangalarti. Yasya prasadat Bhagavad prasado Yasya prasada nagati kutopi dhyayan stuvam tasya yasya sri sandhyam vande guru shri charanaravindam. It's so beautiful. Beautiful prayer. By the satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied. And by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. I should therefore meditate and pray for his mercy 3 times a day and offer my respectful obeisances unto him, my spiritual master. The whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically, when there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities. One who is not firmly fixed in the mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Right, so Krishna goes on here, Srila Prabhupada goes on to elaborate and highlight the importance of dovetailing our activities to Krishna consciousness and not expecting the fruits of those actions. Fruits of those actions will be binding to the material world. But if we offer everything to Krishna, then it's transcendental. There's no reaction and we are not bound. In essence, that's what it is. Okay, next verse. We have time for one more verse, 2 more verses. Okay, let's read on. 42. Anybody else wants to read the verse? Sanskrit? Okay. Yam yam imam pushpitam vacham pravatanti avipaschitaha vedavadaratah partha nanyat astiti vadinaha kamatamanaha svargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vivesha bahulam bhogeshvarya gatim prati. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. Paramatma Prabhu, please read the purport for us. Paramatma Prabhu. Yes, Paramatma Prabhu. Okay, let me go on there. People in general are not very intelligent, and due to their ignorance, they are most attached to fruitive activities recommended in the Karmakand portions of the Vedas. They do not want anything more than sense gratificatory proposals for enjoying life in heaven, where women are available for material opulence, and material opulence is very common. In the Vedas, many sacrifices are recommended for elevation to heavenly planets, especially the Jyotishtama sacrifices. In fact, it is stated that anyone desiring elevation to heavenly planets must perform these sacrifices, and men with a poor fund of knowledge think that this is the whole purpose of Vedic wisdom. It is very difficult for such inexperienced persons to be situated in the determined action of Krishna consciousness. As fools are attached to the flowers of poisonous trees without knowing the results of such attractions, unenlightened men are similarly attracted by such heavenly opulence and the sense enjoyment thereof. So yes, in our Vedas, remember the Vedas, we're not blaspheming, because the Vedas come from Krishna, right? Verse 15, chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita says it very clearly, right? From me comes knowledge, remembrance, and I am Vedanta. By the Vedas am I to be known. Krishna says this. So the Vedas come from Krishna. So there's no fault in the Vedas. That's not what is being said here. What is being said here, that there's a certain section of the Vedas that give you various types of ritualistic activities by which, if you perform, you can get sense gratification. and you can get promoted to higher planets like the heavenly planets. But as we spoke previously in other classes, the heavenly planets are also part of the material world. And when one goes there, when his pious activities have diminished, when they've been exhausted, then such souls come back down to this earthly planet and they have to start life again. The drama starts again. You get the material body and you have to go through all the fourfold mysteries of material life, right? Birth, death, old age, and disease. Now we want to get rid of this. So people who are Krishna conscious, who are very serious practitioners, they do not cling or attach themselves to such ritualistic activity. That's what's being said here. Because they are more knowledgeable, right? They're not interested in sense gratification, so they're not going to follow this process. They're going to go straight, just tell me who God is, what's my purpose here, and how I can go back to him, and how I can serve him, and how I can love him. That's what it is. So in the Karma Kant section of the Vedas, it is said, Apama Soma Mamrita Bhuma and Akshayam Havai Chaturmasya Yajniha Shukritam Bhavati. In other words, those who perform the 4-month penances become eligible to drink the Somaras beverages to become immortal and happy forever. Even on this earth, some are very eager to have Somaras. It's like it's a very nectarian juice, right? That makes you immortal. So they want this to become strong and fit to enjoy what? Sense. Sense enjoyment is binding. Krishna is saying this over and over again. Therefore, here in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, using this analogy, as fools are attracted to flowers of poisonous trees. Yeah, the flowers look very beautiful, but the trees are poisonous. But they are fools because they do not know the results of such attraction, Similarly, unenlightened men who do not know, are attracted by such heavenly opulence for sense enjoyment. That's why Prabhupada is saying that. And such persons have no faith in liberation from material bondage, and they are very much attached to the pompous ceremonies of Vedic sacrifices. They're doing it with attachment. If I don't do it, something really bad is going to happen because it's family tradition. We've done it generation after generation after generation. And if I do this, I'm gonna get X, Y, and Z. I'm going to get to the heavenly planets. I'm going to become rich, very materially opulent. I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll get a good job. And, my children will be successful. They will marry very nice people. That will go on. That will go on. Because as we said before, problems in material life is like the waves in the ocean. They come and they go. They come and they go. But if you are surrendered soul to Krishna, then you will just sail nicely over those waves like a boat. That boat is the boat of knowledge, as Krishna consciousness. And then these waves will not disturb you anymore because you realize that it is temporary. It is temporary. This body will end and all that drama will come to an end. But what is your destination after that is the question. You're going to come back to this drama because you were so worried about those waves up and down in your life and so worried about doing activities, ritualistic activities to overcome temporary problems. Why not do something that will overcome permanent problems and take you to your goal? I mean, that's what this life is meant for. So Prabhupada goes on to say, they are generally sensual and they do not want anything other than heavenly pleasures of life. It is understood that there are gardens called Nandakanana, in which there is good opportunity for association with angelic, beautiful women and having a profuse supply of somarasa. That's like a wine, right? Intoxication. It's intoxicant. You get attached to it. Such bodily happiness is certainly sensual. Therefore, there are those who are purely attached to such material, temporary happiness as lords of the material world. We have to stop here, devotees. Pause, I think we've gone a little bit over time. What is the time now? Yes, it was going to do 2 more verses, but we're going to have to take it on to next week. Because I know it's a bit late for some of our devotees from overseas, right? But very quickly, anybody want to share anything here with what we've just discussed now? Sharat Prabhu? Anything you want to
Hare-
share quickly? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, this Vedas who read Mataji, it's difficult to understand that even I can see Mataji here, so many Brahmanas as day to life. It's difficult to preach those who not in Krishna consciousness, Mother, to come out from that. They hold up this same thing again and again, Mataji.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's attachment. It's attachment. You see, the degree to which you are surrendered to Krishna is the degree to which you will attach yourself more to Krishna and less to ritualistic activity or material comfort.
yeah.
Right? That's what it is. Paramatma
Yeah.
Prabhu, you want to share something? Sorry, Prabhu. Anything else, Sharat Prabhu?
No, Mother. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay. Paramatma Prabhu, you want to share anything?
No, Irishman, thank you for the nice class. Sorry, I was on a call before. I couldn't answer you.
Not a
But I
problem.
just want to ask you a quick. Quick question.
All right.
You know, this verse that you read at the end of 41. It says, by satisfaction of spiritual master. So how can we best satisfy the spiritual master? You know, if we hardly see the spiritual master, for example.
There's
So,
Bapu, there's Vani, yes, Prabhu. Sorry, go on, complete the question.
Yes, I know you mean, yes, I know there's instructions, but so is the instruction more important than personally serving the spiritual master?
Both are important, Prabhu. If your spiritual master is there, you're not going to ignore him, right? You're going to have to serve him.
Yeah.
That's just as important. But Vani is also very important because not all of us get to see our spiritual masters on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Our gurus are always traveling around, they're sannyasis, right? So they're always preaching in different places. So in their absence, we have to follow their Vani, their word, their instructions. And that's what this whole morning prayer, the Mangal Aarti prayer, this is just one extract. It's the last verse of the Mangal Aarti prayer that we read, that Yasya Prasadat. So how do we satisfy and serve our spiritual masters? By us doing our own daily puja and our preaching and our reading and our studying and our chanting and our cleaning of the temple, our serving of the deities, by cooking and serving the deities 3 times a day. It says here, this verse, doesn't it? By meditating, when you do offerings, you're doing it on behalf of your spiritual master. You're doing aarti, you're doing it on behalf of your spiritual master. You're serving devotees, you're serving on his behalf. That's how you serve him all the time.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Mataji? Radhika Mataji, you want to say something? I know it's just like your first or maybe second day. Anything you want to share with us?
Hare Krishna. The importance of chanting.
Yes.
It's important to start our day off with at least a round of our Harinam. That's important.
Yes.
And then we can continue as the day goes along.
Correct. Yes, very good. No, that's true, because that's abhyas, right? That's practice. That's practice, right? So the more you practice, the more you realize what you are meant to be doing. And the quicker you achieve your goal. Kadruta Mataji, anything from your side?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
As long as the senses remain with us, we must change the object of our senses, like hearing from Shastra, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, seeing darshan for the deities, worship in a temple, worship in, like say, to engage our body. And our activities, we are acting just for Krishna. With in Krishna consciousness, I mean. This I understand. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Veronica Mataji?
No, I was just listening to Giriraj Swami's Vyasa Puja and one of the offerings day, and I was just thinking about it. You know, Giriraj Swami was saying that, you know, to be God conscious and Krishna conscious in today's Kali Yuga, it's extremely difficult. And he says, you know, people will come and they will leave, but there will be people that will come and stay. And, you know, we must actually, what he tried to say is when they do stay, we need to put them on a pedestal and you know, elevate them to a higher plane, because it's not easy to stay or not easy to do sadhana, not easy to do a japa. He just tried to make it look, you know, basically to let us know that what we're doing currently, it's not easy. It's not an easy process. And, you know, we must actually worship those that can do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, it's a very good share. Thank you. Yes, definitely. Definitely. So we must be respectful of each other and encouraging of each other as well. That's why association is very important, right? So you must take association of like-minded people. So take devotee association, right?
Yes.
Anybody else? Kadruta Mataji? Navakishore Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. As I heard in the lectures, I heard from other senior devotees also. During the daily sadhana, we must try to finish first our 16 round. Then we can read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, and devotee association with the devotee association, and with the devotees, we must help each other to progress in our bhakti devotion. Not to pull them down, rather give them what we know,
Yes.
how to help each other, Mataji. Like we must always help each other.
Yes, yes. Yes, that's it.
Mataji.
Strength
Yes,
in
Mataji.
unity too, eh? We all together, strength in unity against Maya. You stay in
Yes,
devotee
Mataji.
association, then it's a safe space. It's a safe space, right? Because
Yes,
you're
Mataji.
constantly reminding each other of what you should and shouldn't be doing.
Yes, Mataji.
And devotees remind.
Sorry,
Yes,
Mataji.
I said devotees remind you of Krishna, right? So best to stay in association of devotees. Yes, what are you saying, Mataji?
But no, like as I realize also, if you feel like if you make that feeling for other devotee to help them always, you get rid of your egoism or your jealousy or enviness also from that. So
Yes.
as I heard from Sri Bhakti Chaitanya Swami Maharaj also, he always tell us to help each other.
Yes.
So like we trying to help each other as much as we can in the devotee association also. Hare Krishna
Yes,
Mataji.
it's very good. That's excellent. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else want to share anything before we close? Because we're going to close now. Navkishore Mataji, are you going to be singing for us today? Nashinga Dev Pranams.
Mataji, you can sing, is fine. I will sing next time.
Okay,
Thank you.
All right, so shall we end now? Okay with everyone. Namaste Narajingaya Praladane Hiranyakashi Purvakaha Tilatankana Kalaye Ito Nashingo Tarato Nashingo Yato Yato Yamitato Nashingo Ahir Nashingo Hridayena Chingo Nalingamadim Charanam Prapate Pavakara Kamalavare Natham Madhuta Singham Lalika Hiranyakashipu Tanubingam Eshagadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadish Hare, Jai Jagadish Hare, Bhavatar Kamal Hare, Madhutapingam Dalita Hiranyakashiputanubindam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadeesha Hare Jaya Jagadeesha Hare Jaya Jagadeesha Hare Jaya Nasingadev, 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 Jaya Nasingadev, Jaya Lakshmi Nasinga, Jaya Lakshmi Nasinga, Lakshmi Nasinga, Jaya Lakshmi Nasinga, Jaya Prahlad Nasinga, Prahlad Nasinga, Jaya Prahlad Nasinga, Jaya Prahlad Nasinga, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai, Bhakt Prahlad Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai. Om Namah Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivargacharya Stotra. His Divine Grace Abhay Charanararinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namah Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivargacharya Stotra. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Mathura Dham Mayapur Jagannath Puri पंढरपुर अरवादी कुरुक्षेत्र अयोध्या द्वारिका धाम की जय श्री गंगा माई की जय यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी तुलसी देवी महारानी की जय समवेद भक्त वृंद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नीताय गौरा प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल all glories to the simul devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the simul devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the simul devotees Hare Krishna all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna. Sorry for going a little bit over time today, devotees. Try not to do that the next time. Thank you for being interactive, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.